Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming along. This is our 6th People Pulse report. So we're beginning to see some trends emerging and some good data. So what's going to happen this morning is, as per usual, I'm going to hand over to Annabelle, who's going to run through the presentation itself. If you have any questions during it, because we're very happy to stop and discuss and debate any of the points that come out from the data. So either raise your hand, put it in the chat box, and we will stop and pause and enable you to ask your question or add your comment. After the presentation, we will have time for discussion. So I'm going to encourage you to put your video cameras on if possible, so we can have a bit of a round table chat. And what we're really looking to hear from you is what you're seeing in these numbers, how you interpret them, what's the sort of flavour and colours behind it. We only ever have a maximum of 10 questions. That's an absolute discipline. I think at the moment we have only 9. So we keep it as short and sharp as possible. But what we've always tried to do is to have 7 or 8, if you like, evergreen questions, so that we can watch trends in the most significant and important matters, but then allow ourselves maybe 2 or 3 questions which might be a bit more topical. And I think in this pulse, the topical one is returning to work. So what we'd really like to hear from you are there questions you think we could now drop? And are there questions you would like us to add? So just give that some thought as we run through this. And I'm going to hand over to Annabelle. Annabelle Dunstan is founder and CEO of Question and Retain. And Question and Retain have been our partners with this exercise over the last 18 months and freely donate their time and energy to this, which is great of them. But they also do commercial work in terms of client and people satisfaction. So by all means, get in touch with Annabelle if you want to dive deeper into your people satisfaction or your client satisfaction. And having said that, I'm going to hand over to Annabelle to run you through the results of the 6th pulse.
Thanks very much, Graham. Really excited to be here, and we've got a nice long session to go through all of this stuff. So as Graham said, it's the 6th wave of this. We've got 9 questions to share with you. And just a bit of background for those that don't take part, you are missing a trick, partly because this gives you real gold dust. We're going to be looking at the aggregates across all the agencies that have taken part. Clearly, this is the overall report. But if 6 or more of your team were to respond to the pulse check, you would get your own individual report, which means you could then compare how your team are faring, how they're feeling and what they're thinking vis-a-vis many other agencies, 25 agencies plus at the moment. So I do want to give this a real plug, because we would like to get this up to 500, 1,000 people responding, because the more data, the more intel it gives you. So I just wanted to reiterate that. So have I got a nod that you can see that? I will make it full screen. Great, is that cool? You can see that? Yeah, lovely. So off we go. Here are the highlights in terms of response rate. So you can see we started off back in the middle of last year at 323 responses, and across the board we've increased that.
Click to the next slide for me.
Oh, it has clicked.
I'm just still seeing, I don't think you're full screen either, to be honest.
Oh, so strange.
And I'm still seeing the title slide.
Okay.
There we go. Oh no, prime.
Share and share again. Oh, we love a technical hitch. Share screen.
It's no problem, because there's loads of people still joining. So.
Oh really? Okay.
Perfect time.
So we've got title screen there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'll just stick in that format then, because it goes to full. It seems to drop out.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Yeah, there you go.
So you can see, yes, the number of responses have slowly increased. We had a little drop back in August. I think everyone decided to go on holiday, but then increasing to 433 where we're at now. And then the number of agencies where we've logged a response is at 49. So we really want to see that climb back up again. And the number of agencies with 6 or more responses, which means you then got your own individual report, is at 25. Okay, head on. So the first question we ask is around pride. And we know that if someone is proud to work at their agency, there's a good chance they're more likely to stay with you longer, to talk about it in great terms and encourage others to join. So pride is a really central part to loyalty and retention. And whilst the figures haven't changed dramatically, we're seeing around 2/3 saying they've got pride to work at their current agency. But the interesting point is you've got 7% there in Q1 of 2022 saying they're unsure or not really feeling pride. So that's about 1 in 12, 1 in 13 of your agency staff, if this is the overall picture for all agencies we asked, are not feeling pride. So that's a watch point. And I'm sure if you stood back and just thought about your team, there might be 1 or 2 who might be saying that. So this is a real opportunity for you to go back to base and think, okay, not to wheedle out individuals that are feeling that, but why? What are the causing circumstances where they don't feel pride? And of course, in all of this, we ask why they chose that particular response. And on the right, you can see the positive comments in the green. So are your team saying these kind of things? I'm proud to work among driven and passionate people for an agency who value people as individuals. I mean, that's a gold standard comment. And then we've got others which come in. So people feeling like they're worked to the bone. I feel that I'm with no, what do they say? Feel like I'm worked to the bone with no reward. So you've got a real converse picture there. So have you got 7, 8% in your agency feeling like that? There's clearly work to do if you have. Respect, so the top bar again, we're hovering around 68% saying they feel that they're encouraged to voice opinions and ideas. So in other words, a no fear culture where everyone's opinion counts. Really important again as part of retention and loyalty. And again, the gold standard comment there's an open and transparent culture where we're encouraged to voice our views, but a safe space. I think that's increasingly important. We've seen a lot through the pandemic on the whole mental health and well-being. So people perhaps are masking their anxiety and stress and bringing an adapted self to work. So if they're then having to not be their full selves at work, if they're then not encouraged to voice their opinion on the work front, that can exacerbate their anxiety and mental health issues. So really important you create that no fear culture, particularly in agency land where it's all about communication and reflecting that back to clients, where clients feel safe to express their opinions too is important. So yes, the flip to that is it occasionally feels that we're being asked for them but not being heard. So our mantra is really listen better to your employees so that they give you the clues as to what's needed. So if you really conduct a true listening exercise with no defensive words bubbling up in your mind and actually really hear what your team's opinions are, that can really help shift the dials on this. So again, the watch point is that 7% sitting in the unsure or not really. You trusted to get on and do a good job. We really wanted to ask this because with pandemic and the hybrid working coming in and more people working remotely, it's really accelerated this agenda of trust, having to trust teams. And I think some, perhaps, may I call them old school leadership, were very resistant to hybrid working 2 or 3 years back. But we've had to move with the times. Everyone's had to pivot how they've worked and indeed how they deliver business. So really encouraging to see that at Q1, 95% feel, yes, they are for the most part trusted to get on and do a good job, which is fantastic. Several knock-on effects from that are that you can now employ more remotely, more a wider geographic area, not just restricted to your local area because there's no imperative to commute every day, 5 days a week. So it does increase the talent pool that you've got access to, which is a really nice positive that has come from the pandemic. But then again, you've got that converse comment there, lack of trust and poor communication. Communication is key, clearly, to trust, and it's got to be two-way. It can't just be broadcast command and control. It's got to be a listening exercise. So again, when you're seeing this data, just thinking about your own team, if you didn't take part in this, where do you think it would sit on this question? I'm rattling through. Please feel free to put hands up. I can stop halfway or we can take questions at the end, whatever you see fit. D&I, we're doing a lot of work in this space now. For those agencies that aren't getting their mojo on with this, then you're missing a trick, because this is really, really important for the new talent coming through into agencies. They will be looking at what you're doing on D&I when they come into your office or when they come to Zoom meetings. They'll be looking at the faces on the screen. They'll be looking for neurodiversity, BAME, colour diversity, experience, background, educational diversity. So really, really important, and huge benefit to you in that it increases the diversity of your talent pool that's available to you. So is your agency taking positive steps? Only half in that upper quadrant of saying yes it is, which is there's a way to go here, clearly. And looking at that yellow and amber, 25% saying not really, or sorry, 23% saying not really or unsure. There are some really simple baby steps to take on this. There's lots of fantastic consultants out there offering support and advice on this. There's free Zoom webinars, Eventbrite events. It's a time to get educated around how you increase your and improve your approach to diversity and inclusion. And again, in the amber comment, we keep hearing that things are in the works but not seen anything yet. We have no diversity at all. This is a real opportunity to galvanise your team and to get their ideas and solutions, and to get them to think outside the box in terms of who you recruit and how you approach things. And final point on this, I will bang on about it, is that procurement will clearly be looking at, so working with large clients, their procurement teams are all over this like a rash. They want to know that their agencies are doing the right things in this space.
Sorry, just to interrupt there, just to say that the Alliance in the next couple of weeks will be launching quite a comprehensive diversity and inclusion training programme in conjunction with the Hobbs consultancy. And it's going to be twofold. One is some e-learning, which is really affordable, kind of £30 a session e-learning, which you can tap into. And then we're going to do some masterclasses, 2-hour sessions for more senior people on some of the kind of meatier topics. So watch this space. We'll hopefully have it all on the website in the next couple of weeks.
Thanks, Suzanne. Yes, sorry, I should have mentioned that. Thank you for bringing that in. Learning and development. Now, this is the one slide where there has been quite a significant shift. If you look at Q3 2021, in terms of whether you feel you're offered training and development to further yourself professionally, Q3 2021, over half were saying, yes, I am, 54%. And that's now dropping back. It's dropped down to 42 and then a slight rise up to 47%. So just a watch point there. And you can see a large bar in the 9-6, so 25% most recently saying they're unsure or not really, I'm not really offered training and development. And we know, I mean, if you don't know this, then I'm sure you're going to learn very quickly, but if someone isn't offered training and development, then they're not going to stick around for long. People want to feel that they are progressing in their role. Yes, salary is one thing, and environment and whether you've got a ping pong table is one. But the fact that people are feeling stretched, giving appropriate responsibility and growing is really important to keep that sense that people are either skipping up the escalators to work or rushing to their kitchen desk in the morning to get involved. And I think the challenge is, yes, people are given an annual training budget. It's about making sure that my line managers spot what skills people need to improve or develop new skills, and encouraging that through the whole HR appraisal process. And I know with smaller agencies, it can feel like a cumbersome time drain. But if you think about the cost of losing someone that's going to jump ship to an agency where they are offered a more comprehensive training program, then it really is worth investing in that time to ensure learning and development is embedded as part of your culture. And research over the years, I've been through 2 recessions with agencies, and all the research pointed to the fact that those agencies that continue to invest in training actually fared better at the end of recession. So it's making sure you equip your team with the skills that are going to keep you future-proof. Graham, did you want to add anything else on the L&D slide? I know we talked about it yesterday a little.
Yeah, only to say that Suzanne, who you just heard from, has just joined the Alliance as head of talent and has worked with Tracy to put together a programme for the entire year. And we are, as Suzanne said, ready to just have all that on the website. So we have courses 90-minute courses from as little as £90 for members. So learning and development is highly accessible, and we've made it even more convenient. And as you say, the new way of working, virtual, a 90-minute virtual session on, you know, managing diversity or presentation skills, things like that. Very basic training for the younger people in the organisations, readily available and very cheap. So, you know, take advantage of it.
Thanks, Graham. I also noticed I said if people think they're being offered training and development when I fed this slide back, and that's because often a lot of training happens on the job, and I know agency leaders will push that as a feeling that they are training their team. But from an employee's perspective, if it's not packaged as such, they won't realise that actually what they're doing on the job is part of their training and development. So yes, definitely invest in external courses where possible, but use your internal team and make sure that that is properly packaged as part of an individual's training and development. Grand. Return to the office. So my gut feel is that we're probably almost past this now. This was Q1's question after Christmas, just to see where the comfort levels were. And we've got about 20%, 13.5, about 18% saying unsure, quite satisfied. The legend is incorrect. That's confused me. We'll amend that. But the amber and the yellow on that top slide shows that there are still some people who aren't completely satisfied. But I think this question is probably becoming redundant. I'd be interested on your views on it, because I think people's plans are pretty much in place around hybrid working. I think the 3-2 model seems to have emerged as a dominant pattern that I've seen with many agencies, if not going completely remote. So I'd be interested to hear your views and take the litmus test of this group of 30 odd that are here today. Good. Leadership and communication. We've touched on this, that to have trust, pride and respect in your agency, then it does come down to communication, and the quality of the leadership team's communication is really interesting to measure. So again, if you didn't take part, what do you think your team would be saying about your communication skills? It can be carpenter's door hanging off sometimes. If we're all involved in comms, we're very focused on our clients, and we'll probably do a very good job of that, but making sure that everybody within our team is fully informed, know where the agency's going and what their part in that is, can become a job that drops down the agenda. And as you see, we've got a total of 12% in that unsure or not very clearly. So again, just over 1 in 10 of your agency teams are saying that there's room for improvement, clearly. But in that top gold star comment, we started the year with a presentation on the agency vision for the next 5 years. It's great that absolutely everyone in the agency now knows what they're working to. And I think I would build on that and say, yes, you know, big hurrah presentations at the beginning of the year are one thing. Bear in mind that some people will have received that message slightly differently. Some people might have been away. Some people might have been looking at their emails when that was presented. So it's a drip feed, making sure that communication runs through like a thread through everything that you do, so that everyone's aligned. And that helps your new business growth, because they'll be talking about that in a cohesive way with new business meetings. Good. Sustainability, much like D&I and mental health and wellbeing, this is really important for your ESG to make sure that you're on track. We've only got 19% saying that things are in a really good shape in terms of the agency's approach to it. Again, some really easy wins to get your team galvanized, to get their arms wrapped around what could you be doing. I interviewed Alex at Climbing Trees, who I think is on the call today. An absolutely fantastic approach to being a purpose-led organisation on every front, D&I and sustainability and so forth. So try and get a coffee with him for 10 minutes if you want to soundboard with and have a mentor around that. Sorry, Alex, I'm giving your time away.
No, sorry. And while we're on that subject, we have launched a sustainability action group at the Alliance. So we have something like 30 agency CEOs who are meeting on a regular basis to talk about how we as agency leaders and as we as an organisation can help bring this one up the agenda. And as you rightly say, Alex is one of those who is leading the way.
So the acronym will be SAG, will it?
No.
Sustainability Action Group. Great stuff. Yeah, I mean, we all know what we need to be doing. It's taking those baby steps and also communicating that with your team, but lean on your team, because there's a huge appetite for this, and particularly the talent, new talent coming in will be looking to you to see what you're up to on that front. And then the final question, mental health score, really important to track this. We have pulled up from -22 from the first wave that we did back in the beginning of Q1 when we were in lockdown still. Slowly it's coming up to -7. This is on the NPS scale, of course, which is a scale of -100 through to +100. And so at -7, it's still below good. Anything above 0 is deemed good, but clearly some work to do. Rather like D&I, it's about bringing in, making sure that mental health is high on the agenda. And as Suzanne pointed out, there's always support with the Alliance on that front.
Yeah, just on that, we do have a programme which runs every month, which we do in conjunction with Eventwell. And the recommendation is that 5 to 10% of your workforce should be mental health first aiders. Then 10 to 20% should be mental health champions, and the rest should be mentally health aware. These are e-learning, they're really easy, start from as little as £60. As I say, they run every month. So really somebody, a few people from each agency should make sure that they are kind of mental health trained.
Excellent.
That's a question. Sorry, Stephen here, quick question, if I may. Is there any way of getting hold of NPS data on this score for other industries and sectors so we can see whether our sector is behaving well or badly against the norm?
Yes, I can provide some sector knowledge on that, Stephen. I will share that with Graham after this call.
I think it might help to support the agenda that's going on at the moment with the Advertising Association and ISBA and others.
Yeah.
Yeah, we run a wellbeing survey every year through Opinium, and we invariably find that our industry is below just about everyone else in terms of, seeing signs of anxiety, excessive workloads, and also signs of burnout. I think we had something like, people who responded to last year's survey, there were 94% of respondents had said they had suffered some form of anxiety during the year, and 52% had said they'd suffered symptoms of burnout. So we do know it's that environment. It's a tough environment, but we were hoping that those scores would come up as people returned to the office. Things became a bit more normal. You're able to get out of your house. We did expect those scores to, get in the positive. And I must also say that, that's the averaging, if you like. There are some agencies in this survey who are up in the +40s. So it is possible within, even within our environment, to get some really healthy plus scores.
Yeah, I think that's a real, really good question to track and to be asking that of your team. So I really do implore you to get on board with the Pulse so that you get a sense of how your team's feeling, because that's how you're going to drive retention and succeed and grow. Great stuff. So there ends my presentation, but really interested in opening up to a discussion. What's piqued your interest? Is there anything that resonates with what you're doing in your agency? What you'd like to see more of? Is there a burning question, or something you've got a gut feel about what's going on in your sector that we could put out to the membership to ask, to find out what the overall feeling is? So yeah, let's open it up. I'll come out of the share, and if we can encourage everyone to put videos on was the plan.
Yeah. So are there any immediate comments? I know there are a few organisations on this call that use People Pulse, very strongly within their own organisations. Maybe we'd like to hear from them in terms of how they're interpreting the data and how they're sharing it with their own teams. And if I don't hear, I'm going to pick on someone.
I'm happy to jump in. Hi everyone, I'm Alexa from Circle. So thanks for sharing that, Annabelle. It was really useful. I was had looked at our own report from Circle's perspective, and it was just really interesting seeing the sort of correlation between how we're doing as an agency versus the rest of the industry. And I think some bits we were doing really well in, other bits not so well in. The training and development is a really interesting one, actually, because we really didn't do very well on that score. But I thought it was really interesting what you were saying around how you package that stuff up, because we have tried sort of putting on external training, and lots of the team just say, because we've got such a resource challenge at the moment, that they don't have time to attend them. So we try to be a bit smarter about what that looks like. So, you know, putting people together so that you can do more of that kind of on-the-job shadowing, mentoring type stuff, but certainly have never really packaged that up as training. So I think that's really interesting, just in terms of how you frame that. And also just how you try and make sure that training development remains kind of front and centre. We've actually got a really big budget for this year, but my main issue is that people are just saying that they don't have time to do it because there's a bit of a kind of resource push at the moment, and we all know what's going on in the recruitment sector. So it's, yeah, an interesting one. I think a bit of repackaging from our perspective would be certainly a kind of good outtake from the discussion.
Great. And I don't mean to just, you know, whitewash it and then, you know, wash your hands of the training and development. So that genuinely needs to be something where someone at the end of that session being mentored, they feel they've got something out of it. And maybe just to do a mini report on what they've learned and what the objectives are and what they've now got going forward, and build that into your appraisals, I think could be really powerful. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Stephen saying the mental health scores are the most worrying. Yeah. I think echoing Graham's words on the fact that many agency staff are stressed. I think the last 2 years, pretty much across every sector, there's been a massive hike in mental health challenges. And I think it was always there. I think people are just much more open about talking about it now. And there's the shame around it seems to be melting away, which is much needed, but it's actually revealing the true size of the challenge and the problem. So I think educating yourself so that you can talk comfortably about it with your team is important, as well as, you know, attending courses and bringing in mental health first aiders, of course, but making sure that you are absolutely comfortable in your own skin around talking about mental health and anxiety and being able to spot the signs. We're not here as leaders to be psychotherapists, but we can help spot the signs and signpost people to the help that they might need.
But Annabelle, the build on that is more that people are actually voting with their feet. So, you know, huge sways, particularly middle management, account managers, account directors, are throwing in the towel because they're not getting the support, they're not getting the rewards, they're finding it painful to come back into the office. So they are very often actually throwing in the towel without jobs to go to, but they're confident they'll find work because they are confident as a generation anyway, and they know they're much in demand. And when you couple that with relatively low pay in our sector versus what they can get brand side, we're seeing a massive erosion of talent within the industry going to brands because they are better looked after, they have better training, better prospects, and they'll pay proportionately more. So as an industry, unless we actually resolve this problem fairly quickly, it's going to exacerbate because the poor people left behind don't get the support, don't have the resource, don't get the training, and of course the problem just basically spirals out of control. I'm genuinely worried about this at the moment because I think it's not a, I think all that COVID has done is exposed, as you rightly say, the issue, but it's accelerated it because people are much more confident now that they will find work elsewhere and don't have to hang around and put up with it.
So is there anybody on the, thanks Stephen, it's a good perspective, but is there anybody on the call that's having a counter to that? So maintaining retention, what do you think the magic is? Can you bottle what's going on in your agency where you are managing to retain the talent? Has anybody got a positive story to share?
Big sigh there. I
hope someone has.
We've had quite a few go away and come back, that is positive. And when talking to them about why, it was, and we all have this benefit, right? Because we're all independent agencies. But when we asked why, it was because they feel less like a number in an independent agency and more able to embrace kind of the culture and the family feeling. And that translates to how they're communicated to and looked after, I think. So whilst that is a positive, we've still got all of the negatives that have been mentioned. But if that's what we're going to try and distill and concentrate on, that's, for us, is certainly something we're looking to do.
Oh, that's so opposite. I was talking to a very senior woman in an agency recently. She's been super motivated. She even bought into the agency a couple of years ago. She really wants to go the full distance with them to sale. And they then had a takeover bid. And in the takeover, a whole load of things happened, even though she's well, she's a minority shareholder, but nothing was communicated to her about what was happening. It was presented as a fait accompli that this takeover would happen. And the way we summarized exactly what had happened to her was it felt like she was being treated like an asset and not a person. And she felt like all her attributes, her skills, her approach to business was not taken into account. It was literally what revenue she covered. And she felt suddenly very dispensable. And she's now considering leaving. And this is someone who has 15 years knowledge of that business, is brilliant at her job, brings in new business. And yet the business coming in to take over hasn't seen the full picture of who she is. So I think people versus assets is really important to agency land. I don't know if anybody...
Cool. Tell her to give us a call.
Annabelle, I have a question. You talked about potentially dropping the return to work question. What do you think about a predictive question such as asking people's intention to remain at their employer over the next 12 months?
Really interesting. I'm happy to ask that. We might see a dip if there's any feeling that that could be revealed as who that person said that. And of course, this is all anonymized. We redact anything that would give any agency an individual name away.
Oh, really?
It's all redacted if there's anything that, if someone self-identifies. So it's an interesting one. What do other people think? Would you like to know if people are intending to leave? I guess there's lots of nods.
Or indeed intending to stay.
Can I come back to the original question, which is what are people doing to retain staff rather than worrying about whether they're going to go? Because we've been on a journey now through COVID for the last 2 years of empowerment and most importantly, self-determination within the business regime in terms of where are we going, how are we going to get there and how are you going to help us to get there. And what we've got is kind of now a forum where the staff with me make decisions about the determination of the business. But most importantly, what we've got is a really tied in, kind of bought in, enrolled team. And within that, we've now set up a share ownership scheme. We're setting up terms and conditions based around arts and MEMS. We're changing the legal structure of the business so that we become a true social enterprise. And what that's doing is giving us, for the first time in my career, a position where people are genuinely telling me what to do rather than asking me what to do. And my favorite saying is, you telling me what to do is easy, me telling you to do is hard work. So my life's become a lot easier, but the direction of the company has almost been automated in the sense that we're now on the same path, going in the same direction with the same goals.
That's really inspiring. Fantastic. How long has that process taken, would you say, to the point where you're talking confidently and happily about it without sleepless nights?
2 years.
Yeah, it's not an overnight thing. So a 2-year process to become a social enterprise and to feel that your team are bought in mentally and financially.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got another 2 years to go, but it's a journey. But the thing that is really interesting about what we've now got is total commitment from the team. I mean, to the point that we've had our head of language has been approached by some of the biggest transcreation agencies in London, and she's basically told them that she's not interested. And the money that's being offered is incredibly good. I mean, much more than we're paying.
Yeah. Nice. That's a little ray of sunshine. Thank you.
Well done. Well done indeed. So, Mark, are you getting individual scores? Are you getting your own benchmark report from the People Pulse?
Not yet, no.
Okay. We'll have to encourage you and your team to complete the responses then.
Yeah,
you only need 6 if you get 6 responses, you can see your own individual feedback in terms of all of those satisfaction scores. So I'd encourage you to participate.
Completely anonymised. You won't know which individuals responded, just to reiterate that message. Grand.
So yeah, are there any questions you want to add? So we might be able to look at the intention to remain or intention to leave question. That seems significant at the moment. As Stephen said, there seems to be a propensity to go, the grass is greener. I was really interested in Chris's point that potentially we have a story to tell, that working in independent agencies is potentially more rewarding, more satisfying than joining network agencies. Be interested to explore that one.
So a couple of thoughts there is, it might be nice to ask, why do people stay at their current agency? What is it they love? What are the uppermost factors? Because that might be interesting for you to find out. Is it the people they're working with, the client work they're working on, the pay and rewards? What is it that's holding people with you at the moment? Be interesting to see across all the agencies. Yeah. We could ask around independent versus network, although there'll be a wide variety of experience of those that have never experienced network and those that, and we don't want to seed the idea that network might be better, which would be counterproductive. But certainly, what do you love and are you intending to stay could be good.
Can I add to Annabelle on that? Yeah. We've over the last 6 months been running a research through opinion on how clients perceive independence versus group agencies, and we got the results back last week, and it's based upon 18 different characteristics. Without, there's a lot of information in that, but the big one actually was that clients saw independent agencies as more credible, and that goes to issues around trust and reliability. Fun enough, agility fell in the bottom quartile, but this whole area of trust was a key one. And I think that the point that was being made earlier, which is about not being treated as an asset, or a commodity within the agency, is one that kind of comes out of that. We will be sharing all those the results of that in the next month, but I think there are a number of characteristics in that which I suppose we should be sharing with you, Annabelle, and then you can pick up in terms of maybe highlighting in the questions.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, really good. I'd love to see that. It'd be really interesting and see what words come up regularly. Great. This is good. Any other thoughts about what you'd really like to know, what your teams are thinking and feeling that we haven't covered in the 9 questions this quarter? This is your opportunity.
I'd like to ask something, if I may, just to the group, and it's probably not linked to a direct question, but the flip in the industry from last year to this year, and the fact that we managed to retain, fortunately, every job in the company, and even were able to give some bonuses away, that seems to be very much forgotten by our teams as we now move into an era of increased job offers and the market moving on. I don't know if anybody else has found that, or if it's just us.
I can jump in with an experience with a client that was saying pretty much what you're saying. And our approach to help them was to actually get you to tell your brand story back to your team, to kind of celebrate what you've all been through and what could have become a disastrous situation where the agency had to fold. Actually, everyone dug deep, you've done X, Y, and Z, and get people, and that's instilling the pride, I suppose, and the trust that you as leaders knew what to do. Most of us were making it up as we went along when the first weeks unfolded, but to not let that story drop into the ether. It's a really important part of your brand story and your history as an agency, and you play that back to recruits coming in as well, that they know that they are going to be with a trusted leadership team. So don't let them forget, and they need to be part of the story, and to celebrate that and have it visually on the wall or whatever it might be. And that's part of your new business credentials as well. You know, we're a trusted team that respond in times of adversity, and this is how we did it, and this is what we celebrate. So you are responsible for keeping that story alive.
Lovely, thank you.
Stephen's posed another question there for people on the call. Do we think today's employees want jobs or careers? Is that an age-old one?
They want to fund their leisure time. Yeah, millennials will have 30 jobs. So, sorry, I'm answering immediately. And any other thoughts from other people first?
I'm going to pick on Piers now. Piers, do you think your employees want careers or jobs?
I think our employees, they actually want careers. I think we have quite a senior team and we're quite heavily bent towards the technology space and got engineers, and I mean, and their first love is coding, engineering, solving problems, and I think for them they can see it's a job in high demand, and it's definitely, yeah, I would say it's definitely a career they're looking for.
Brilliant. Anyone else got observations on that?
It feels to me like we've got a real mix. We've got some people who are there who desperately want a career and, you know, are so engaged in the company, the vision of the company and how they can shape out a role. But then you've also got people who definitely just want it as a job, and they've got the side hustles and everything else as well. And I think that's possibly something that we've struggled with, is that how do you, from a performance and a development perspective, how do you try and make sure that you're giving everybody the same opportunities to try and help progress? But obviously those people who want a career are just going to accelerate so much quicker than the people who are just here for a job. I think that the people who are here for a job, at our agency, it feels like they don't necessarily see the difference. I think if you ask them, they wouldn't say that they just wanted a job. They would, like, they look at it and they see their peers and they're just like, well, I can see that they're progressing like this. Why am I not progressing? And that's been quite challenging recently, especially to manage that and sort of making sure that we're not holding anybody back, we're giving people the right opportunities, or then trying to have those conversations in a supportive, structured way with the people who feel like it's more of a job.
By the way, if any of you can identify your younger employees who clearly are looking for careers, we do have a group called the Future Leaders Group. And these are all the younger people in the industry who have clearly decided that agency life is for them. And they can get together in a peer group and plan the future. The last year's group actually ran research on the future of agencies, which exposed lots of really interesting things. So yeah, if you do identify those people who are really moving on, loving agency life, you should point them to the Future Leaders Group.
And can I add to that, Graham? And what we're finding is that those members who've got an engaged workforce in the Alliance activity, one, the leadership see some of the things that we put on, like Green Jams, as training in itself. You know, it's not formalized training, but it's training. And secondly, the people who engage are those who are really interested in engaging in industry issues because they see their life in this industry, as opposed to those who pitch up, do a job, and therefore once it gets to 5:30, they knock off and go and do something else. So I think there is a correlation between Alliance member engagement and those agencies that have got a engaged workforce looking for careers, and those who are fulfilling jobs.
So, we were looking earlier, the trust figures seem to be very consistent. Is that a question you think we could drop in favour of others? Anyone got a view on that? Or is it still absolutely significant? We need to know the level of trust to get on and do a job. I think everyone felt during the pandemic that the trust levels actually went up because in a way they had to be trusted. They were working virtually in their own time, weren't being observed at their desk or what time they arrived, what time they left, that sort of thing.
I think from an individual agency perspective, it's really interesting and important to know where trust sits, because if you're facing a takeover, or you're merging with another agency, or you've had an influx of new team or a big swathe of people leaving, then that can really impact on trust. So whilst the overall picture is staying around 2/3 in a good place, as an individual agency, every quarter you will be going through waves of trust. So if I would keep that one for sure. The returning to work one would be one I would be more persuaded to drop if I'm putting my penny's worth in. But yeah, any views on trust from others?
Or returning to work, for that matter. Are we done with returning to work? Are we all clear? Everyone's got a good policy in place. Everyone's bought into it.
We have, but the office was still quite empty yesterday when I went in.
Yeah,
it's definitely inertia, I think.
Yeah, I think we're definitely sorry, you go.
I was just going to say the rate of inflation and the cost of living and travel and all that's definitely starting to bite with our staff. So they're we're trying to do the 3-2 model, but cost is becoming a factor. I think, about coming into the office 3 days a week, buying lunches and all that. So there seems to be kind of bad feeling starting to seep in about that at the moment from our perspective.
Can I suggest maybe another area to question? As you may know, we are doing stuff with ISBA and IPA around pitching, the Future Pitch Pledge, and that goes back to Stephen's point around mental health, and it's being approached very much in terms of agency cultures and client cultures about the pitching process. I'd be quite interested to know how people in the agency feel their agency is around pitching. Are they do they throw everybody in, or do they consult? Are they running it in a sensible way? Because we are saying this is a pinch point for impacting on mental health. So I'd be quite interested, if I was running an agency, as to how my people thought we approached the pitch process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can certainly look at that one. Do you think, going back to the diversity one, we've got about 5 minutes left, and I'd like to explore that. Those numbers aren't increasing. Is that a factor that, the shortage of talent means you're going, look, we haven't got time to worry about diversity. We just want anyone who can get on that seat, because there is a counter to that. That obviously, if you exercise the diversity thing, you open your agency to more possible talent. Has anyone thought either way about that? Is the talent shortage getting in the way of creating a more diverse workforce? Or are we finding that creating a more diverse workforce gives you access to more people? Has anyone felt that?
Can I come in there? Because we've taken a completely different approach to recruitment, because if you look at the resource pool that is the creative services world, it's a very challenging environment to recruit in. So what we've done is we've gone into retail, because obviously retail got decimated and throughout COVID with moving online and businesses like Arcadia failing and Toys R Us and all number of businesses that have gone into decline. And what we've been able to do is recruit some really very talented marketing people who came from a retail background, not from an agency background. And then all we've had to do is train them and educate them on our market. They already understand marketing and executions. They understand what the content services are all about. They didn't know the industry that we're in, but they've learned that and they've taken it on full tilt. All of them are multilingual, because obviously that's our position. We're a multilingual content agency. But in going into that space, not only have we been able to get people at a good salary rate, we've also been able to get some very ambitious and very career-oriented people who want a future.
Again, another
to bear that out. The agency I created or founded was called The Marketing Store, and our client base was all retail. And
Graham, you were a customer of mine.
For the first 3 years, well, we can talk about that. For the first 3 years, we only employed people who had worked in the retail marketing environment, and they made great agency people. So I can vouch for what you're saying, Mark. You know, they've got that sense of pace, urgency, deadline management. If you're coming out of retail, it's very much today, tomorrow kind of thinking. And I think that was a great pool to fish in, if you like, to find talent. So great.
And similarly, hospitality as well. So those that have perhaps left uni, continued their waitressing and hotel support jobs, so I've got great customer skills, but haven't had the direction and the idea that agency life could be for them. So yeah, hospitality. I like Stephen's comment, lots of returning mums and Davids. Did you want to elaborate, Stephen?
Yeah, everyone's called David. So no, my experience at the moment is that actually recruiters are having to go much further afield. And you know, the ism we never talk about, ageism, is actually something that agencies are actually having to accept, that actually might have some older people in their offices and actually bring up the average. So we're seeing older people come back into agency land or going to agency land for the first time, with talented people who are perhaps returning from working as a mother, as a father, and actually that's creating slightly different sorts of opportunities for parts of the employment sphere that we haven't really considered in the past. And we are a desperately ageist business, and there aren't many people north of 50 working in agencies that they don't own them. So actually it's quite interesting to see now people are coming back.